explain why?
For sure. Would you like to go night-night?
Cafe!
Obsession, passion, undying love, genius and madness. Take the Titanic themes and emotions of grand opera, fuse them with the trappings of the Gothic novel, and what do you get? The Phantom of the Opera, of course, a darkly romantic icon of the Gaslight era.
You go, buddy?
The opera ghost has never been so popular as he is today. The Phantom seems to have a special appeal for modern audiences, beckoning us to leave our brightly lit, digitized world.
That's not him, is it?
Shadowy realm.
No, it's he's the host.
And he's
I've reserved special seats.
He's going for that look.
But I warn you, it's supposed to be haunted. But at
He's
least
one of
it's not
those really
underneath
into it.
the chandelier.
That was good. At least it's not underneath the chandelier.
Opera is often regarded as the highest combined achievement of the arts. Music, movement, and visual grace all elevated to a nearly superhuman plane. But within this celestial realm, there dwells a fallen angel.
Command your love.
What does he look
I saw you at home, all over black, and these eyes staring at me.
His eye.
Staring at the meat.
One eye in the middle of his forehead.
It's a long nose and a big red beak.
You make me nervous.
And you know, there is no nose.
No.
And how far will he go in pursuit of his passion?
Maybe we should watch that one next.
They have the one I'm not interested, but they have one. The guy who plays Freddy
If
Krueger,
one thing occurs in
he
the
plays the
canon
Phantom of that
Universal
version, but it's like more of a
Studios
horror one, and
It
it
is
was like in the
certainly the
90s.
timeless legend of beauty
Slasher movie?
And it's like she goes back and like gets sucked back in time for cursing like either to his reincarnate or something. But him apparently he lives forever. So
First
Interesting.
made in
weird.
1925 with Lon Chaney, followed by an Oscar-winning remake in 1943.
ooh, we watched
which
the
has all
Oscar-winning
rings as the
remake.
Phantom, and remade once again in 1962 with Herbert Lom as the disfigured music master, whose story has become one of the most popular romantic narratives of the 20th century.
I don't
The
know that one.
thing about the Phantom of the Opera is the romantic quality that it has.
Well, the appeal certainly of the Phantom of the Opera is one of those perennial things where you have a character who also has a tragic element.
I know
that
my
guy in the
favorite
back.
kind.
That guy in the background gave you the
Mysterious, the
mask.
mystery of it all. It fascinates people.
I think the thing that sticks in everybody's mind is the removal of the mask.
Sun done better than others.
Pick up that ridiculous mask and you speak to me. Do you hear me? Tino!
Yep, you were great at that.
The Opera Ghost was the creation of a Frenchman, Gaston Leroux. Lawyer, journalist, author of many fantastic novels,
You
but
already know
none
all
so
the stuff.
enduring as The Phantom of the Opera. First published in 1910, Phantom became a popular success. It told the story of Eric, a horribly disfigured musician who dwells in the catacombs beneath the Paris Opera House, and his unrequited love for a singer named Christine. When his passion is thwarted, a reign of terror ensues. A primary inspiration for Leroux's book was an earlier novel, George du Maurier's Trilby. It told the story of Svengali, a maestro of mesmerism, who possesses the soul and voice of a beautiful young singer. Carl Laemmle, president of Universal Pictures, bought the film rights to Phantom for actor Lon Chaney to follow Chaney's phenomenal success in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It had all of the elements and the ingredients for a rip-roaring melodrama. And of course, the main thing is, it was a perfect vehicle for modern Chaney as a
Think
follow-up
he's
to The
texting
Hunchback.
Lon Chaney was one of the finest character actors, and he was notable mainly because he was such a great artist in makeup. They called him the man of 1,000 faces.
His range was incredible, and of course he was perfect for silent movies because he could express in pantomime so much without having to speak.
Like Hunchback, Phantom would be a tremendous undertaking for a small company like Universal.
There was a great emphasis on
Small.
westerns,
Back in the day.
comedies, on things that rural audiences would like.
Laemmle first intended to shoot on location in France, but he finally brought Paris to Hollywood, and the opera rose up at Universal City in the shadow of Notre Dame.
It was a very elaborate, very expensive production, and the stage was an exact replica of the Paris Opera House.
The set for the Opera House was actually newly constructed for the 1925 version, and it was one of the first, if not the first, steel structure sets built on the Universal lot. And it was quite a deal at that time. And because it was such an incredible set, they were able to use it time after time for many productions, including the 1943 production.
The Phantom stage, art directed by E.E. Sheely and Sidney Ullman, perfectly duplicated the Paris original, but no one at Universal knew what the backstage and cellars looked like. Ben Carré, a French artist now in Hollywood, had worked at the Paris Opera and was called in to help. His English unintelligible, Carré spoke fluently with charcoal. A grateful Universal thanked him, and Carré moved on to his next assignment. Nearly half a century would pass before Carré would actually see the film and learn how carefully his designs had been executed. Such an exquisitely designed production required an especially attractive leading lady. The coveted role of Christine went to a relatively unknown ingenue named Mary Philbin.
Mary Philbin and I were neighbors in Chicago. She was 6 years older than I, but a beautiful, beautiful girl, just exquisitely beautiful. And at the time, Universal was having a beauty contest, and my father urged her to send a picture, and she did, and she won a contract. Mary was
Man, if it was still done that way today.
At this age, she was extremely shy. She was a lovely, sweet, gentle human being.
These were
Lon
silent movie
Chaney's
days.
persona was
It didn't
the
matter what you
complete
sounded like.
antithesis of Mary's, the beast to her beauty. And although Chaney was unparalleled as a master of grotesque makeup, Phantom would put even his talent to the test.
The concept of the death mask comes from the book. So this is Christine describing to Raoul. Suddenly, I felt a need to see beneath the mask. I wanted to know the face of the voice. And with a movement which I was utterly unable to control, swiftly my fingers tore away the mask. If I lived to be 100, I should always hear the superhuman cry of grief and rage which he uttered when the terrible sight appeared before my eyes. I fell back against the wall and he came up to me, grinding his teeth. And as I fell upon my knees, he hissed mad, incoherent words. Leaning over me, he cried, "Look, you want to see? Feast your eyes, glut your soul on my cursed ugliness."
To create the illusion of a living skull, Chaney had taken inspiration from a book illustration by Andre Castaigne, which only partially revealed the Phantom's face. An exaggerated skull cap raised his forehead, and his cheekbones were exaggerated with putty. Further distortion was achieved by wadding, inserted into either side of his mouth. Small prongs
You see that?
attached to a
Because
set of
there's a
decaying
mask.
teeth created the perpetual grin of a death's head and held the mouth open. The makeup's most startling feature, a skeletal nose, was intensified for close-up shots by means of a wire appliance, partially visible in these photos, inserted into his nostrils, then pulled taut and hidden by putty. According to cameraman Charles Van Anger, the device often caused significant bleeding.
Well, it was pretty ghastly, and
the art.
when he was unmasked, so to speak, it was a real shock.
For Carl Laemmle's niece, Carla, who lived with her parents on the backlot, life at Universal was never more exciting than during the production of Phantom.
And when I was 16 years old, they were making the Phantom of the Opera, and I was chosen to be the prima ballerina, which was quite a big thrill to me.
Phantom's director, Rupert Julian, was also thrilled. After 10 routine years as an actor and director with Universal, the former Percival T. Hayes, son of a New Zealand pub owner, had landed in clover. Having replaced Eric von Stroheim on Merry Go Round, which had also starred Mary Philbin and Phantom leading man Norman Carey, Julian was now the studio's star director. Dignified, sartorial.
Dignified. It's like from Mulan where she's like, dignified. We all did it.
Leading crew and cast alike. Cameraman Charles Van Anger personally recounted the details.
I just remember the silent film Row. He was so hot.
1962.
He has that very gentle, knight in shining armor.
Not like the idiots that were in the last one. They were pretty entertaining though.
To a point where Mr. Van Anger was the kind of go-between, and that the two of them didn't speak.
With Van Anger, the messenger boy, Cheney sent word to tell Rupert to go to hell. Van Anger cautioned Julian to beware, lest an arc lamp accidentally dropped from the rafters. Norman Carey, on horseback one day, became so angry at Julian that he charged the director's platform, riding down the cameras. Julian's wife, Elsie Jane Wilson, punctured his pomposity constantly, endearing her to the crew and smoothing production considerably. If the behind-the-scenes battles were colorful, so was the film itself. The new two-color Technicolor process was used for scenes of spectacle and pageantry. With over $500,000 spent and the New York opening set for February 1925, a January preview was a disaster. Hunley fired his general manager. Rupert Julian walked out. Director Edward Sedgwick, a Western specialist, reshot 60% of the film. Action and comedy would save the day. Norman Carey now had Ward Crane as a Russian count to duel with for Mary Philbin's affections, and comedian Chester Conklin to duel wits with. In April, San Francisco got an eyeful. Gales of laughter greeted the movie. The story drags to the point of nausea, said one critic. The picture was pulled. Lemley fired the new general manager and entrusted Phantom's salvation to a woman, director Lois Weber. She supervised the cut and paste of all Phantom footage. In the preview version, Eric's soul had been redeemed by Christine's kiss, and he died literally of a broken heart.
I like that better.
Western director Sedgwick had preferred frontier justice.
Yeah,
Lois
that's
Weber
one
cut
that we
to the
see
chase.
because back then they didn't like that. They like, monster's a monster and it has to die.
Yeah.
That part always made me laugh though because when they catch him though, when he's driving, Christine falls out and he just leaves her. Yeah.
My gosh.
The Phantom of the Opera finally opened in September. Final cost, $632,000. It was a sensation, grossing more than $2 million. It was one of the last hurrahs of the silent cinema. Universal retrofit the original Phantom in sound. Prohibited by contract from dubbing Cheney's voice, Universal simply wrote his dialogue in the third person.
Everybody
As if
talks,
delivered by an emissary.
but the
He
Phantom.
looked it only over shots of his shadow, avoiding mouth synchronization.
Don't be afraid. No harm shall come to you, Christine. The monster is waiting. Walk to the mirror. Have no fear.
40% of the film was reshot in synchronous sound. Trade papers called the results breath-talking. But the microphone rang down the curtain on the careers of both Mary Philbin and Norman Carey.
I wonder what prompted them to give you this channel.
inserts were weekly staged by director Ernst Lemley, filmed by locked-off cameras.
Did you know this version existed?
I heard about it, but I don't know if they sell it though.
Mm-hmm.
I heard they redid the voices.
Stick to the Southwest one.
I think like their problem too. A lot of the silent film actors they weren't good with voice because that was the point.
Yeah.
So a lot of them they couldn't go to regular.
It's like when they did, they started going into color instead of black and white. All the makeup they used, they had to change different kinds of makeup because they used green and stuff to contour the face specifically.
The
Yeah.
Technicolor sequence made a return engagement. And so did Lon Chaney, even if his lips were contractually sealed.
What time is it?
It's 11:15.
Okay, I gotta go soon.
You will turn into a pumpkin.
Not quite. My car might though. And I don't want to walk home.
Remade and reborn at an additional cost of $113,000, the new Phantom of the Opera grossed $419,000 worldwide. Welcome money indeed for Universal in the first year of the Great Depression. The
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera in sound opened January 4th, 1930. 3 weeks later, Lon Chaney signed with MGM for his first and only talkie, The Unholy Three. 6 months later, A Man of a Thousand Faces was dead. The silent cinema died with him.
How depressing.
That's my music.
Don't you do it. It's sad.
I thought I told you to get out. You've stolen my music. Thief! You've stolen my music.
How could he do that with no left fingers?
Well, you need a lot of dexterity in the fingers to do the violin. He probably had enough grip between the
Sewers of
forefinger
Paris lead
and
to
the thumb to
refuge,
squeeze.
catacombs beneath the opera. The reign of terror begins.
Christine Dubois will sing tomorrow night. Madame Biancaroli and her maid have been murdered.
Murdered?
The story makes more sense to me that it's her dad. Like, it's less sad in a way, and also more fitting that he's dies in the end.
Yeah.
It makes him more pathetic.
He was already pathetic.
Yeah,
He was
It
just
makes-
a weird, he was just a stranger.
yeah, it makes more sense why he's willing to give all that money.
Comes down and the darkness distills it.
Like, it's still sad, but it makes more sense.
It does. They have a
Ritual
connection.
is real.
Yeah.
Pre-existing.
So I feel less bad for the character, I guess. Because I'm like, oh, well, you gave up your child.
He abandoned his child.
Yeah.
And the finale was guaranteed to
Who realizes
Oh, wow, look at
the
him.
influence the Boris Karloff character had on this girl.
By 1944, Boris Karloff had become such an indelible horror icon that his simple presence in a film signified shudders.
Boris Karloff, the classic horror actor. He did very little with his voice. He did very little with his face. He just let it be there. And the eyes are so expressive. I don't know whether you remember the close-ups of Boris Karloff in the
Some people are
climax
just
to
made
a
for it.
masterpiece. I think it was the first time that Boris had a chance to play an elegant man. And when he came dressed in his tails and his wonderful hat, he was beautiful.
Once again, audiences were treated to the Phantom stage and Hal Moore's Technicolor camera work.
We should watch that.
But you Universal's hope to repeat Phantom's success went up in flames.
The climax didn't have the name Phantom of the Opera. With that name alone, you were safe.
The climax proved more of an anti-climax at the box office.
It should have been called Phantom 2.
Phantom worked quietly at Universal, unmasked again for a cameo in William Castle's 1951 Hollywood Story.
I feel like I
In
know what this is.
1955, another Phantom script was prepared, again set in the Gaslight
Hollywood
era.
Story. I think I've heard of
The
that
new
movie.
face of Spirit Universal International was the creature from the Black Lagoon and other modern horrors of the fabulous 50s. Lon Chaney Now was the stuff of old-fashioned melodrama, which the film story of his life became.
Damn you! Damn you! Damn!
Man of a Thousand Faces was a sanitized retelling of Chaney's own Hollywood story,
They love him, don't they?
the authorized version of a very private life, which some felt dropped the curtain on the true backstage drama. The son of deaf mutes, Lon Chaney was sensitively portrayed by James Cagney. The film explained Chaney's craft and fame, but weak facsimiles of Chaney's triumphs failed to convey his power of accomplishment. Even Eric's organ requiem sounded contrived, having been ad-libbed by staff composer Herman Stein, asked to strike some chords for what he was told was only a sound check.
The other guy did it better.
And it is going to be very cold when you walk outside.
Oh, I guess the next one we have to watch is in 1962.
Why is that box empty over there? That incomplete. Voices. People do not like to sit down.
I may be interested to see a horror version of this, but
Director Terrence
Yeah, that's
Fisher,
gonna be in the 90s.
fresh from Hammer Films'
He's got a long way to
triumphs,
go.
The Curse of Frankenstein and Horror of Dracula.
is it on your
was at
list?
the helm.
Like most films
Eventually.
that he directed, he didn't have any say in choosing
I think the
the
90s
subject.
one is the only one I wouldn't want to see.
Studio
Because that's more like
the idea
Freddy
of the
Krueger
film.
horror.
They said, would you like
So I don't
to
think
direct
we
this?
would
And
like
he
it.
would say,
I
sure.
wouldn't.
But it was a subject that appealed to him.
It also appealed to Cary Grant. A legend of masculine charisma approached Hammer, wanting to make a
Masculine
horror film.
charisma.
Oh,
A
yeah.
man named John Elder, producer Anthony Hines, tailored his script to the star's romantic persona, only to have Grant's agent refuse his client's wish to play against type.
On the rat catcher, you see, sir. Cary Grant could not go and stab the rat catcher in the eye.
Ew.
Hammer's script takes most of the menace away from the Phantom. It shifts murders from him
Are
to
you all
other
snug?
people.
Yes.
This one's pretty gruesome.
Traditional dirty tricks performed with relish by earlier Phantoms were now delegated to a malevolent imp.
That just sounds stupid. That was supposed to be the bad guy. He
Topsy-turvy,
ain't
the
got
Phantom
minions.
unmasks himself and is a victim of his character's own traditions.
What?
How do you do that?
Jack Thorne, trained at London's Old Vic, Herbert Lom inherited the mask of a kinder, gentler Phantom. Lom
that's
gave a
no fun.
masterful performance.
I have
Don't forget your
The
candle.
pantomime of Lon Chaney with the voice of the fallen angel pioneered by
Who
Claude.
has your phone?
Yep.
Car keys?
Yep.
Okay.
In my other pocket.
Who are you?
Quiet and listen. You sang well, but you will sing better. I shall teach you.
Phantom doesn't need minions.
He has them in the all-girl Japanese cast.
Of course he does.
They dance.
Of course they do.
The true villain of the story
Bye,
is the Darcy,